It was one of those quiet evenings that slip by unnoticed. The kind that feel ordinary while you reliving them but somehow linger in your memory long after they VA passed. And I remember I was sitting on the couch with a soft blanket pulled over my legs, the glow of the television flickering across the living room walls as Netflix auto-played another episode of a show. I wasn't here even fully paying attention, to my mind half occupied with unfinished work emails and the grocery list for the next morning, when I heard the familiar shuffle of footsteps in the hallway and saw my son pause near the entrance, hesitating as if he were deciding whether to interrupt me or retreat back to his room. He had grown taller over the past year, his voice deeper, his shoulders broader, yet there was still something achingly young about the way he hovered there, uncertain and thoughtful, and without looking away from the screen, I patted the empty space beside me, telling him to come sit if he wanted, expecting the usual maybe he'd complain about homework or ask for snacks, or just scroll on his phone in silence. But instead, he sat down closer than usual, close enough that our shoulders almost touched, and I sensed a tension in him that didn't match the relaxed laughter coming from the television. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at the screen, though I could tell he wasn't really watching either, and after a minute he cleared his throat softly and asked if we could turn the volume down, which immediately made me glance at him, because that was never something he cared about before. And when I muted the show, the room seemed to grow heavier with quiet, like the air itself was waiting. He folded his hands together, then unfolded them, then rubbed his palms against his jeans in a nervous gesture I hadn't seen since he was a child, preparing to admit he'd broken something. And that small familiar movement tugged at my heart, because no matter how much he had grown, he was still my son, still that boy who once crawled into my lap after a nightmare. And I gently asked what was on his mind, keeping my voice calm so he wouldn't feel pressured, and for a few seconds he just stared at the darkened screen where our faint reflections looked back at us to silhouettes side by side before he finally spoke in a tone so serious it caught me off guard. He asked me if I was happy, and the question hung there between us, simple yet impossibly layered, and I felt something shift inside my chest, because I had expected anything but that, and I realized in that moment that he wasn't asking casually. He wasn't fishing for reassurance like children sometimes. He was studying my face carefully, searching for something honest, something real. I tried to respond lightly at first, telling him, of course, that everything was fine, but he didn't look convinced, and he pressed a little further, asking if I ever felt lonely, even when I wasn't alone. And that was when I understood that this wasn't about idle curiosity. This was about something deeper stirring inside him, and I turned my body slightly toward him, giving him my full attention. Because whatever had led him to ask these questions deserved to be heard. He took a slow breath and admitted that lately he had been feeling overwhelmed, not because of school or friends or anything specific, but because he felt like he was growing up faster than he knew how to handle. Like the world expected him to have answers about his future, about who he wanted to be, about what kind of man he should become, and he confessed that sometimes he lay awake at night wondering if he was disappointing me by not having everything figured out yet. And hearing that felt like a quiet stab to my heart, because I never wanted him to carry that weight, never wanted him to believe my love was conditional on achievements or certainty. I told him that adulthood wasn't a finish line you cross with clarity and confidence. That even I still felt unsure sometimes, still questioned decisions, still worried about whether I was doing enough. And his eyebrows lifted slightly in surprise, as if he had never considered that parents could feel uncertain too. He said that from his perspective, I always seemed strong and composed, that even when things were difficult, I rarely showed fear, and I realized then that in trying to protect him from my struggles, I might have unintentionally created the illusion that vulnerability was something to hide. So I admitted to him that there had been nights when I sat exactly where I was sitting now, long after he'd gone to bed, wondering if I was making the right choices for our family, wondering if I was balancing work and home well enough, wondering if I was being the kind of parent he deserved. His expression softened, and he nodded slowly, as if that confession gave him permission to breathe a little easier. Then he surprised me again by asking how I dealt with that uncertainty, how I kept moving forward when I didn't have all the answers, and I thought carefully before responding, because this felt like one of those rare conversations that shape a person quietly but permanently. And I told him that I learned to focus less on having everything planned out and more on being present, on making small, honest decisions each day instead of obsessing over the distant horizon. And that courage wasn't about never feeling afraid, but about continuing despite the fear. He listened intently, absorbing every word, and then he admitted that he had been scared to talk to me about these thoughts because he didn't want to seem weak, didn't want me to think he was struggling, and that was when I reached out and placed my hand over his, telling him that strength and honesty were not opposites. That being able to say I am unsure or I am afraid was often the bravest thing a person could do. He swallowed hard and looked down, and I could see emotion flickering in his eyes. The kind he usually tried to hide behind humor or distraction. And he said he sometimes felt pressure to appear confident around his friends, to pretend he had everything mapped out, and that the pretending itself was exhausting. I told him that many people his age were likely doing the same, performing certainty, because they believed everyone else was certain too, and that comparison is a dangerous mirror, often reflecting illusions rather than truth. The room felt warmer somehow, as though the heaviness from earlier had softened into something gentler, more connected, and he leaned back against the couch cushion with a long exhale. The tension in his shoulders easing. After a moment of silence, he asked one more question, quieter this time, asking if I would still be proud of him, even if his path looked different from what I once imagined. And I didn't hesitate even for a second before telling him that my pride had never been tied to a specific career or title or accomplishment, that it was rooted in his kindness, his empathy, his willingness to question and grow, and that nothing about his future could erase the love I felt sitting beside him right now. His eyes glistened slightly, but he smiled. A small, sincere smile that reminded me of the boy he used to be and the man he was becoming all at once. And he said he had needed to hear that more than he realized. Eventually, he reached for the remote and unmuted the show, but neither of us paid much attention to it, because something far more important had unfolded in that quiet living room, something no streaming platform could replicate. A bridge built not from dramatic speeches, but from simple, honest words shared in an ordinary moment. As the episode played in the background, he rested his head briefly against the back of the couch and glanced at me with an expression of relief. And I understood that sometimes the most serious conversations don't begin with grand announcements. They begin with a child sitting beside you during a casual evening, asking softly if you're happy and daring to reveal the worries they've been carrying alone. That night reminded me that parenting isn't just about guiding from a distance or providing solutions. It's about being present enough that your child feels safe to ask difficult questions. And as we sat there side by side, the glow of the television casting shifting shadows across the walls, I realized that the seriousness in his voice had not been a burden, but a gift, an invitation into his inner world, and I silently promised myself to always make space for conversations like this, even when they arrive unexpectedly, in the middle of something as simple as watching Netflix.